Hello, in this video we're going to look at 1B from the 2016 AP Computer Science free response questions. So in this question what we're going to do is we're going to write the constructor for this class here called Random Letter Chooser. I do strongly recommend that if you haven't read the question yet, please take a moment and do that. It's going to make this explanation a lot easier, and I also do recommend that if you haven't actually tried to do it yourself, go and do that. It's really important to go through the process of trying these questions without someone having explained what you need to do. All right, so I've actually kind of written this class inside here. Remember, you can get access to any of this code at misq.com, which is a site I'm in the process of developing. It's a little rough right now, so please bear with me. So we have this class called Random Letter Chooser. It extends Random String Chooser. So that's Random String Chooser is a class you wrote in Part A. And it's important with the AP exam that even if you had no idea what to do for Part A, but you can do Part B, you're going to assume that all your Part A code is correct. Remember, in terms of theory, because Random Letter Chooser extends Random String Chooser, it inherits all methods and fields. It does not inherit the constructors. And one of the things, the first thing I'm going to do is that if I have if this class here extends Random String Chooser, I'm going to go cross-check the constructors, because one of the common mistakes that happens here is something like this. I'm just going to delete that line of code, and you see how I get an error. And what the error is saying is that there's an implicit superconstructor issue. So remember, with hierarchies, what happens is that the way Java works is you have to construct the most generic objects first. So if I instantiate Random Letter Chooser, what's going to happen is it's going to go up to Random String Chooser, and then it's going to go up to Object, create the Object component, then create the Random String Chooser component, and finally create the Random Letter Chooser component. So the first line in every constructor is the supercall to the constructor of the superclass. If we don't write it, what's assumed is this supercall right there, which is a default superconstructor, which means it's calling a constructor that takes no parameters. But if we go in here and take a look, we have written a constructor in our superclass, and that constructor takes an array of strings, and therefore this is problematic. So that's why we have to do this. So what we're going to do is, this is all you have to do for this question, is you just have to basically make use of that function they've told you about called getSingleLetters and pass it the string str. And what that does is it takes this string and it generates an array containing each element is a letter from that string. And that's it. Now I'm going to take the rest of the time in this video, I'm actually going to talk about getSingleLetters, because I think even though you don't need to implement it for this question, there's some really great ideas that come from this. And if we scroll down, I've kind of written this in a couple ways. I should spell this correctly as well. There we go. This first example works. And all I do is I create a new array, which is the length of the string, and then I simply loop through each element and I pull out each character using substring and then put it in the array. Pretty straightforward, and then I return it. No problem. While I'm here, I also want to talk about the difference between substring and charat. Students kind of have preferences between them. Either one works. Remember, if you're going to use charat, though, in this case, charat generates a character, so I need to force that character into a string, because the array is an array of strings. So if you just do this, you get an error, and that error is essentially saying I'm trying to put a character into a string. So the way we force it is by adding an empty string in front of it. Either technique works. Now, like I said, this works, but there's a better way to do it, and let's comment all that out. That's the better way to do it. It's a single line of code. So there's this wonderful function called split, which is an instance method in the string class. And what it does is it takes a string, and then it will split it up into an array based on some sort of character. So, here's a common example. Let's say we have this sentence here. This is a sentence, and I want to make an array with the elements. Element 1 is this, element 2 is, element 3 is a, and element 4 is sentence. So basically, I'm going to take each word and put it in a new element. Well, if you go sentence.split and you pass it an empty space, that's going to make an array of 4 elements with those 4 words in it. Very nice, very quick way to do it. In this case, what we want to do is we want to pull out each letter on its own. So what you do is you pass an empty string as the character that you decide to split on, or the string you decide to split on. Again, split is not part of the AP subset, but it actually is a really useful function that you probably want to kind of have in your skill set. So down here, here's my random letter chooser. This is just a test code, and if I run this, there you go, no problem. So just to wrap up, in this question, you can't actually do this question without properly accessing get single letters. So it is kind of, your hand is forced a bit. Because the super call in a constructor has to be the first call, you can't go and make the array yourself and then pass it up. You have to actually use this function. But watch that in later AP questions, because they often put that in there saying you must use the built-in functions to get full marks. And that's a really important point, because that's something they're really trying to teach in the AP exam, this idea of code reuse. If you have any questions, as always, please don't hesitate to ask, and have a wonderful day.